This is Citizen Armed, or How I Stopped Worrying and Learned to Love My Gun, a podcast covering topics of interest to new and seasoned shooters alike. Citizen Armed is also a proud member of the Gun Rights Radio Network, podcasting freedom. And now, Citizen Armed.
Hello and welcome to this edition of the Citizen Armed podcast, or How I Stopped Worrying and Learned to Love My Gun. I'm Spencer Bennett. My co-host Michael and Dennis will be joining me on future podcasts. They're unavailable today, and this is kind of one that it's very topical, very timely, and I wanted to get this out really quickly. Michael's still out of country. Dennis, of course, is available. We just didn't want him on the show. No, I'm just kidding, Dennis. No, he's busy with his business, and it's been a while since we've had a chance to all get together and put a podcast together. We will put some together very soon, I promise. But like I said, this is a very topical podcast that has to do with our rights as citizens. And before we go any further, I would just like to go ahead and introduce our special guest who founded I.C.E Training. He is the man who developed the combat-focused shooting techniques and trains military and civilians alike and law enforcement on personal defense. I'm talking of none other than our returning guest, Rob Pincus.
Great to be here, Spencer. You guys are doing a great job, and I love being on when I can, and I appreciate the invitation.
There's so many things going on right now in the world of shooting. Of course, one of the most important things is the election and how important it is to pick candidates that support our rights.
It really is. You know, I try not to get, too political. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a trainer, and if somebody comes to me and they're, a Democrat, Republican, whatever, if they've got a firearm or they're just interested in personal defense, home defense, then, I'm going to give them the best information I've got. But, obviously, I have a political science degree. I certainly studied the inner workings of the government. I've been on Capitol Hill, lobbying for our right to keep and bear arms, and been very involved in that fight through the NRA and USCCA and many other organizations. I think it's incredibly important that people simply take the time to consider, all the issues, not be a one-issue voter on any issue, whether it's, firearms or otherwise. Make sure that they're making a decision that they can stand behind. They're not making a decision because Rob Pincus told them to, or because, say the NRA told them to, or because, they don't like somebody else. But really, I'm on Twitter now. I kind of joined into the Twitterverse here recently, and there's an amazing amount of insightful commentary and links to good articles and to good things that people who are interested in politics in general, or specifically our right to keep and bear arms, can learn a lot from. I think that's the main message, is make sure you think about it and then exercise that right to vote.
And also use your First Amendment rights, too, to share and even address errors that people sometimes put out there, whether that's accidentally or maliciously. I want to bring up something that happened this last week, and it had to do with a shooting magazine. We can go ahead and call it Recoil magazine. That's the name of the magazine. An article was written that came off not really reflecting the Second Amendment rights that you and I both believe in. And it was just kind of a strange take. You wrote a rebuttal to that and responded to that. Can you discuss that just a little bit?
Yeah. Over the weekend, I was actually down at Gander Mountain Academy in Florida. We were doing one of our broadcast classes that reach out across, 2 time zones and 6 locations in 5 states, and we were just having a great day. Everything was awesome. And I saw a little piece actually come across the internet. It was on late Saturday night. Didn't really pay that much attention to it. Something about the Recoil magazine thinks we shouldn't have MP7s. Well, not that big a deal in and of itself, because it could just be that misunderstood statement that MP7s aren't available to the public, which has a lot more to do with it, being a fully automatic firearm and being a new firearm and being manufactured by H&K than anything Recoil magazine can control. So, I go to bed the next morning. I'm on an airplane at 6:30 waiting for them to close the doors, surfing the net. And sure enough, I began to read the statement that was made by the editor of the magazine in regard to the MP7 and it being a good thing that there is not civilian access to the MP7 because the gun has no sporting purpose. Well, you've been around this long enough, and I certainly remember the 90s when we fought tooth and nail against this concept of a firearm needing to have a sporting purpose. I remember the days when you'd go to SHOT Show and the clearly non-sporting guns were almost hidden, in a back corner somewhere. I remember the days when even automatic knives couldn't be shown openly on the floor of SHOT Show. And Now in 2012, we're in a very different era. The industry, whether it's the NRA, the National Shooting Sports Foundation, with the SHOT Show, everyone in this industry has come out from under the umbrella of needing to be scared about admitting that firearms are about defense of our country, defense of our Constitution, defense of our homes, and about personal defense. And that's the primary reason to own firearms. And any publication that wants to be a leader in this industry that doesn't support that needs to go away. And certainly any magazine that is going to be involved in this industry needs to not have leadership that feels that way. So maybe it was a slip up. We'll see. I wrote my piece and put it out there, and of course, Twitter and Facebook, and they went out there, and it was reposted in a lot of different places and got a lot of response very fast. I think at this point, it's the most shared thing I've ever written on Facebook. But the problem then came out later on Sunday when the editor, Jerry, I think I'm pronouncing his last name right, Tsai, Tsai, wrote a justification for his position. It wasn't much of an apology. It certainly wasn't a retraction. It didn't say he made a mistake. It didn't say he meant to say it wasn't available but should be. It clearly said that he was afraid that, and the line he took is the classic gun control line, because it could pose a threat to police officers, and he specifically cited that rounds from an MP7 can penetrate, soft body armor at hundreds of yards. Well, Jerry, maybe you don't understand the topics you're covering, or maybe you really think any gun, including the 30-06 hunting rifle that sits on many a shelf, many a closet, or many a gun safe, or many a mantle in this country should be restricted from civilian ownership, because that rifle can penetrate soft body armor too. A really irresponsible position, an incredibly ignorant statement, or a statement of someone who truly believes that there are quote-unquote reasonable restrictions on our rights. And then I and many other people in the industry turned up the heat to say that, a guy like this really shouldn't be in charge of any magazine, let alone a firearms magazine, as far as we're concerned. And they started losing advertisers and losing subscribers and losing customers left and right. Here we are a few days later, still waiting to see what Recoil magazine is going to do, if they're going to survive, if they're going to go down fighting with Jerry at the helm, if he's going to resign, or what they're going to do. Because at this point, a lot of people who had high hopes for that magazine, being a younger, hipper, cooler publication in the gun world, have been very disappointed. And I think one of our biggest concerns, or at least my biggest concern, is that the younger guys who are new to the industry, who didn't live through that fight in the 90s during the assault weapons ban era, don't realize the recklessness with which that statement is made, don't realize the import of ignoring the concept of a sporting purpose being necessary for private ownership of firearms.
Yes, and you're right. That's the battle that we fought. It was so hard to overcome that, and the media had done a great job of smearing gun owners, the NRA, and anyone who believed that a firearm was used for anything other than a sporting purpose was just nuts. You're just a gun nut and you shouldn't own one. Well, that's not the purpose of the Constitution, and I appreciate you, and I know gun owners across this country and around the world appreciate your stand on that and our stand in representing us in that way. I agree with you. Some other things have come to light, his and connections with political people. We won't go into all of that because we don't know if that was the main motivation. The timing of this is suspect, and I'll just leave it at that, and we'll see what Recoil magazine does along those lines. But again, thank you for your stand, and we agree with you that our Second Amendment rights don't have anything to do with hunting. They have everything to do with our personal defense, defending the country within and without, and protecting our families, and we appreciate you.
Thank you. Absolutely.
All right. Well, we've got to talk about some new projects you're doing. Of course, ICE training, you run and own and operate that. You've developed your personal defense video series, DVD series. You're working on some new stuff, aren't you?
Yeah, we've got Personal Defense Network that continues to grow. We just launched our premium membership. So in addition to, over 2 years of free articles and videos, and we'll continue, obviously, to add to those free articles and videos for all of our members and anybody who just visits personaldefensenetwork.com. But we've also opened up a project. We spent about 6 months working on some exclusive content and the presentation of online courses of videos that are related but hadn't ever been presented together on a DVD before, as well as put some full-length DVDs from our training series, which has over 60 titles in it now. We put all that behind a paywall called the Premium Membership, and the fact is that paywall is less than the cost of an average training DVD. It's $34.95 for a year, and you get complete access, and your listeners can use the code I.C.E. News, ICE News, for a 30% discount on that annual membership, and for significantly less than the cost of one of our DVDs in the training series, you get access to an incredible amount of exclusive information, some cool presentations of online classes, and the long format. One of the things people are always asking us about is penetration tests. What happens if I fire this bullet inside of my house? What do these bullets do? Rifle versus pistol, shotgun, shooting through glass. Well, we've got an extremely thorough presentation from our barrier penetration DVD behind that paywall also as our launching full format DVD. So that's been an exciting project for the summer. Got a new book coming out, Counter Ambush Training Methodologies, kind of explains the science behind our approach and how you apply that science to your individual approach to preparing for that worst-case scenario. It's not firearm specific, but it certainly covers a lot of things about the counter-ambush defensive shooting, but it's a bigger picture approach. Colonel David Grossman actually wrote the foreword for it. I was honored to have him be a supporter of the information we're putting out and be interested in doing that. He wrote an amazing foreword for that work. There's a lecture DVD series and a home study course that goes along with that that'll be released through the United States Concealed Carry Association later this fall. So those are probably the two biggest projects I've had working.
I would recommend it to anyone, whether you're a professional or an amateur shooter, if you are in law enforcement or you just have a concealed carry or you're interested in getting into the handgun lifestyle in America. It's definitely worth the investment, and I would recommend anything that Rob puts out there. It's very informative and well done, too.
I appreciate it. You guys do a great job of covering a lot of topics that are important to the firearms community, and I appreciate you endorsing our self-defense information, personal defense information, of course, the defensive shooting that we hope we never have to do, but we need to be prepared for if we do own that gun for that purpose.
You bet. And, Rob, if you're ever in the West Texas area, come shooting with us.
Oh, man, we need to do it. We need to make that happen, maybe in 2013.
Hey, that'd be all right. I know that you're busy right now, so we'll try to have to plan ahead. Maybe I'll see you at SHOT Show this year.
Oh, we'll definitely do that. We'll get together at SHOT Show and at least chit-chat, maybe down in the aisles or one of the evenings over a beverage.
All right. Tell everybody the website where they can pull up more information about you, Rob.
PersonalDefenseNetwork.com has like I said, an incredible amount of free training information. If you're interested in seeing the training calendar and what I'm doing, ICEtraining.us. ICEtraining.us is the primary website. It's got the training calendar. It's got our online store. That's got most of the detail-level information for the people that are actually interested in the training.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rob. Rob Pincus.
Awesome. Thank you, Spencer.
And that does it for this edition of the Citizen Armed Podcast. Abbreviated as it was, the boys will be back. Michael and Dennis and I will all join back up to bring you another podcast very soon covering self-defense topics and your rights as a citizen. Until then, for Michael and Dennis, I'm Spencer. We'll see you soon.
You can hear Gun Rights Radio Network on Stitcher Smart Radio. Stitcher allows you to listen to your favorite shows directly from your iPhone, Android phone, BlackBerry, or Palm phones, on demand and on the go. Don't have Stitcher? Download it for free today at Stitcher.com or in the app stores. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio. Gun Rights Radio Network shows can be found under sources.
Citizen Armed reminds you that the views and opinions expressed within this podcast are those of the hosts. Always seek the advice of a licensed professional, whether it be for legal counsel, firearms, or for self-defense training. Citizen Armed does not take responsibility for misuse of firearms by its audience or the consequences of the use of any self-defense topics covered in this podcast. The white zone is for the loading and unloading of passengers only. There is no parking in the white zone. Shoot responsibly and share your sport.